Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Keeping It Chaotic podcast. My name is Ava.
And my name is Cheyenne, and today is a kind of a new setup. We don't have the big table we normally have, so we are currently on my toddler's table, hunched over. So if we look a little gigantic, that's why. But yeah, it's I also would like to point out the last 2 episodes, I looked like a absolute disaster. I was so sick. I did not feel good, but had to come through for the podcast. And yeah, today we are in our High School Musical attire. Go Wildcats.
We are going to Disney Channel night at Disneyland today. Hello. There's noise outside. But we are going tonight and we are so excited.
So excited. We didn't really know. It was kind of like a last minute decision, so we didn't know what we wanted to go as theme. Tina is also going, so at first Ava was like, let's just be the Jonas Brothers, fuck it. So we were, but then we were like, there's just so much that has to go into it, so let's just be basic and go for a little bit something easier. We all love High School Musical so much, so I'm fine with it. I think it looks good.
Yeah. We're channeling our inner basketball boys.
Yeah.
So today's episode, we are going to be talking about a few of our favorite books and a few of our least favorite books. We each have 3, and we're just kind of gonna go down the line and share those with you guys. But first, just to give you a little background before we jump into it, we're gonna share our favorite genres. So personally, I love reading young adult books, specifically murder mysteries and romance books. I'm such a sucker for young adult murder mystery books. I feel like they're so much better than adult mystery books. But yeah, I love those, and also obviously romance, such a good genre to just dive into and read whenever you want. Cheyenne?
I didn't really know going back into reading what I liked just because it had been so long. So I kind of read a little bit of everything last year. I went through 30 books and I figured out that my main genre that I'm obsessed with is thriller, mystery, but they're very trigger warning kind of thrillers, I guess. And I'm not usually somebody that I'm not somebody that can watch something gory or scary or anything like that. It freaks me out. But for some reason these books are just immaculate to me. They're so good, and I don't know. I do also like young adult and romance, but I just feel I'm always drawn to the thriller, suspenseful kind of books. So those are definitely books that I'm going to be talking about today. So I'm going to throw trigger warnings out there. My books are a little bit more on heavy topics, but I promise I will throw out the specific trigger warnings before I start reading about it.
Okay, should we just dive right in?
Yeah, let's do it. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I can go first. It's fine. So starting with our top 3 favorite. I didn't put mine in order necessarily, just 3 of my favorite books that really stood out to me. So for starters, I put the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series by Holly Jackson. That one is a young adult mystery book. And specifically, the 3rd book in that series is my favorite. So just a little summary of it, which is on the back of the book, the back of the 1st book. I kind of shortened it a little, but basically Pip decided to reinvestigate the murder of Andy Bell, who was murdered by her boyfriend Sal Singh. During her investigation, she discovers a trail of secrets that could prove that Sal is innocent, and it just kind of goes into every part of her investigation and different people that might have been involved. But the 3rd book is so good in that series. I think that the way it just has such a twist at the end, and I think overall it was just an amazing way to end the series. I definitely recommend that to anyone, really. It's such an easy read because, again, it is a young adult book. but it also has so much depth to each story because each book in the series has a little bit of a different plot line and a different like murder that goes on. But they're the same characters throughout the series, and I think that it's just a great little mini mystery book series if you want to get into that. Definitely a good place to start.
Mine aren't also, they're not in order either. It's just kind of what I remembered from the top of my head. My top three, or my first one, I guess, is Jar of Hearts. It was one of the first like thriller books that I started reading. And honestly, like this book was truly like the main source of where I got interested in these kind of books. The trigger warnings for this though are abortion, death, including a child, murder, sexual assault, and torture. It sounds absolutely terrible, but I promise you, like, the storyline of this book is so interesting. Basically, like, a little summary of it is it tells the story of three high school friends. Angela disappears at 16. Gio knows the truth about what happened, and Kaiser, now a detective, works to find out the truth. But will the secrets Gio shares with her first love, Calvin, come to the surface? So it's basically just like a back and forth kind of a story where they talk about like it happening currently to them, and then they like fast forward to current time, and like a lot of secrets that people like thought would never get out start coming out, and it's just like crazy. And honestly, the ending is just, I thought like I had it down to a T, like this is the person that's like, you know, behind all of this, and I was like completely thrown for a curve with this one, and I was just like, I need more books like this. So Jar of Hearts was the start to my thriller journey for me.
My next one is Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. It's like a Greek sort of like storyline. Very different from what I normally read, but I heard a lot of people raving about it, so I was like, I'm gonna give it a chance, and it became one of my favorites. It is so good. A little summary of it. Achilles is a son to a sea goddess, and I literally do not know how to say this name. When I was reading it, I was like, huh? So sorry if I butcher this. Patroclus. I'm so sorry. Anyways, he is a prince exiled from his homeland, and they are brought together by chance and form an inseparable bond. It's kind of like a forbidden romance, and it evolves into such a great love. But the book is like it just gives such good character development for each of those characters and their relationship, and I think it's just an amazing read. It's definitely not for everyone, and I think even I struggled a little bit with reading it and just getting through it. Also, like the names in that story are low key impossible to read, obviously, like I just demonstrated for you. But it's such a good storyline, and I really do love it. One of my favorite quotes from that book is, I am made of memories. And when I read that, I was like, wow, we truly are all made of memories. So that's definitely one of my favorite books.
This next one is crazy. Honestly, I debated putting this on my top three just because of how many trigger warnings are on this. It's a series just because I couldn't pick one book. They're all like short stories kind of. They're less than 200 pages each. I believe there's 5 books. And it's from the Mindfuck series. I was very hesitant to read it just because the trigger warnings are flashbacks of sexual assault, bodily harm by multiple assailants, implications of child sexual abuse, grooming, gaslighting, torture, both physical and mental, kidnapping, and murder. I mean, like I said, I do like these books, but for some reason this one I was like truly scared to dive into. But I took it with a grain of salt, and I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I'll read the first one, and if I can't get through it, then, you know, it is what it is. But I had heard so many good things from people that I follow online, and I was like, I'm gonna give it a try. And I flew through all 5 of these books like in like less than 3 weeks, I think. And I was like, I need more of this series. And definitely, if you can stomach it and you can handle this kind of like topic, then I suggest it. But it is a very dark book. A summary of it is this series takes you through a dark journey of a serial killer getting revenge for the horrible things that were done not only to her, but her whole family. She plans every single detail to go through with this revenge, but what she never expects is to fall in love with the FBI profiler that's in charge of her case. So she basically like meets this man and like slowly starts to fall in love with him, and the same with him. And as she's like committing these murders, she like goes home to him at the end of the night, and he's like, I'm trying to find this person. Like, he thinks it's a man because everything is so gruesome and like crazy calculated, that he's like, maybe I can like, you know, have your input and like whatever, maybe you can help me. And she's like, no, like I can't stomach. Sorry about my cat. She's basically like faking it, like, I can't stomach that stuff, I don't know how like you can even do that, blah blah blah. But like the twists and turns of this book are crazy, and like the fact that he just like has no idea that he's going to sleep next to this person is crazy. But I feel honestly like I'm not normally on like the bad guy side, I feel like, but I feel like she has every single reason to do the things that she's doing to these people because of what happened to her and her family. Like, it's just, you think the things that happened to the people that she's killing is bad, but like the flashbacks of what they did to her is just like unexplainable. Like, you're like kind of happy like these people get payback. So if you can stomach it, I immediately recommend. This is probably one of my favorite books ever, like not even just in this topic, but yeah, that's my second one.
I might need to read that. My third one, I had a really difficult time choosing the third one because there's so many authors that I like and just like their books. But I went with The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I feel like everyone has read this by now, but if you haven't, read it immediately. It is so good. Um, a little summary of it. Evelyn Hugo is a famous Hollywood icon who chooses to finally tell her life story to an unknown reporter. Her story tells a tale of ruthless ambition, unexpected friendship, and forbidden love. And it's just such a good storyline and goes into detail of each relationship that she had so much. But like specifically following the storyline of one true love that she had in her life. And I think just the end of this book and the way that we find out the reason she chose this specific reporter to tell her story, it was such a plot twist. And I think it just tied everything together so perfectly. I loved the character development and the way we knew everything about every single character that was introduced. And yeah, I mean, we both read that, and it's just so
It's
good.
definitely a book that I want to reread just because there is so, the detail in that is just, it's crazy. Like, even if, I don't know, I mean, like, obviously I can't remember off the top of my head, but like if you were to tell me something specific about somebody, I'd be like, oh, that's this husband or whatever. Like, the writing is so good. The ending was like chef's kiss, I think. Like, yeah, I almost put that on my top 3, but I kind of knew it was going to be either that or Daisy Jones for her. So yeah, I don't know. It's good. Definitely recommend that book. No trigger warnings there. It is a fantastic book. I know a lot of people like, it was like a 50-50 kind of thing. Some people loved it. Some people were like, whatever, it's not that good. I loved it, and I'm so excited for the movie. I hope that they do it justice because there's a lot of detail and a lot, like, I wish, it's a movie, right? They're doing?
I'm pretty sure it's a movie, but it should be a
It
series.
should, yeah. I wish it was a series, but you know,
You know how it is.
Yeah. Okay, my third book is a little bit more of a like lighthearted book compared to my other two. This was the book I started reading with. Again, this is the first book that I read on my Kindle. It is a Colleen Hoover book. So I know a lot of people are haters of Colleen Hoover, but I actually enjoy her books, like whatever. It's called Reminders of Him, and the summary is a troubled young mother yearns for a shot at redemption in this heartbreaking yet hopeful story. After serving 5 years in a prison for a tragic mistake, Kenna Rowan returns to the town where it all went wrong, hoping to reunite with her 4-year-old daughter. This book made me cry, like, the entire time that I read it. It's so, like, heartbreaking, honestly. Like, you get to know why she went to prison, and, you know, you'll eventually, like, pick if you think she deserved it or not. But she does have a daughter that she, like, just wants a relationship with, and the family that has her is just kind of like, no, we told her you were dead, basically. Like, the daughter has, like, no idea that this person exists, and it's talked about, like, within the first few pages, but it's just, like, so devastating. I mean, like, I obviously have 2 very little kids, so I think, like, I looked at it and I put myself in, like, the main character's shoes. So maybe that's why it was so, like, close to home, but I definitely recommend that book. I actually gifted this book to my mom because I was like, you need to read it. But of course she has not read it yet. It's been on her nightstand forever. But I recommend this book so much. It is definitely more of a lighthearted journey, I would say. It, like, starts off very, like, sad, and it gives you, like, the examples of why she did what she did, or, like, the whole scenario, why it happened. But throughout this journey, it gets a little bit, like, more lighthearted, I guess. But it is a really good book, and it was an easy read for me. I wasn't like, huh? Who's this? What's happening? Like, it was genuinely a good book to start with, I think, for my journey back to being a book lover.
Okay, those were our 3 favorite books. Now we're going to move on to our 3 least favorite books that we have read. So starting with my first one, One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was actually my most recent read, the most recent book that I finished. It wasn't my favorite book by her. It just didn't meet the mark that her other books have. I think it needed more character development for me personally. Even the movie that they adapted from this book was not the best. I just think that they were, like, what is that? I just think that they were missing a lot of detail, I guess, into both of their relationships. Yeah, it wasn't my favorite book by her. But I also wouldn't be like, no, don't read this. It just wasn't my favorite. So read it if you want. It's Taylor Jenkins Reid. She writes a good book, so you can't really go wrong there. But again, it just wasn't my personal favorite out of all of the books by her.
Yeah, these books that I'm, like, talking about as my least favorite, I don't hate them. I think neither of us hate them. We just kind of, like, I don't think we would read them again or really recommend them to people. For me, Rock, Paper, Scissors was heavily recommended to me, and I thought I was gonna love this. But honestly, I don't remember anything about this book. When I was going through my Goodreads, I was like, oh, why do I not remember reading this book? It's about a couple that wins a weekend getaway. What begins as a potential romantic weekend to save their marriage instead kicks off as an eerie, unsettling sequence of events told in multiple points of view. Each narrator has a different plan for the weekend, and neither fully trusts the other. I just feel like there was a lot of loose ends that weren't tied together from what I can remember. And I feel like I kind of forced myself to get through this one. But I wouldn't recommend this one personally. I just was bored, and my note for this it says, honestly don't remember this book, but it was one of my lowest ratings on Goodreads, so that is why that's on here for me.
My next least favorite is The Deal by Elle Kennedy, which I believe is part of the Briar University series. People rave so much about this book and about this author, about this series, and I just don't get the hype. And sorry, don't come at me for that, but like personally, it just wasn't as good as I think people are saying it is. I think people talk about how Colleen Hoover's books are bad and like horribly written, but I don't think that these ones are. I think these ones are worse than Colleen Hoover books because I could actually like get through a Colleen Hoover book and actually like get something from that. But this book, I think that there were just. I feel like from what I remember, there were too many like references to like social media in that book, like specifically like Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, whatever it was. I think there was like a One Direction reference in there, like Story of My Life was playing or something. Like I don't know, I just don't love books that have references that way because it feels too like forced. Real and like basically like forced to me.
Like they're trying to be the cool parent or something.
yeah. And like I think Colleen Hoover does that a little too, but like I like her books a lot better than this one. I again, a lot of people rave about this series and about this author, and I don't get the hype. I don't love it. I would never recommend this series to anyone. I actually threw this book away because after I read it, I was like, yeah, I'm done. No, I don't need this in my collection. It's gone. Goodbye.
You're like, I actually use it as toilet paper. It was fine.
Yeah, I would not recommend this like at all.
My next one is The Silent Patient. Again, this one was heavily recommended to me by a lot of people that follow me on Instagram and were also like reading the same types of books that I was reading. I didn't hate it, but it definitely was one of my least favorite of this topic. It is a thriller also. It's a psychological thriller. The story follows a famous artist named Alicia who is convicted, sorry, I cannot read, who is convicted of shooting her husband 5 times in the face and then goes completely silent, refusing to speak about the crime or anything else. Theo Faber is a psychotherapist who hopes to treat Alicia and uncovers the mystery behind her motives for killing her husband.
I can't read that either.
I'm literally blind. I'm like squinting so bad if you're watching the video, sorry. You have to like really pay attention to like the smallest amount of detail, otherwise you miss like a whole storyline basically. Ending was a little bit disappointing and very confusing to me. It wasn't a bad book. I think like it has the potential to be a great book, but I think the ending like overall just confused me so much because I was like, how is this story being told? Like it just first, second, third person like just didn't exist in this book. At least for me personally, I was confused a lot of the time because I was like, I get who's telling the story, but how did the ending end up this way? I don't know. But yeah, I definitely don't recommend this book, but everyone raves about it, so I guess just, give it a try. But I personally did not love this book.
My last book that I have on here is Where the Crawdads Sing, and the only reason I'm putting this on here is because I literally couldn't finish it. I couldn't read it. I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't get past the language, and for me it was just extremely painful to get through. I know everyone loves this book, and even my mom, when I was like, I literally can't read this. I tried reading it like 3 times, and each time I got to like maybe 1 chapter in, and I was like, I can't do it. I literally can't do it. Yeah, I honestly don't have much else to say about that other than the language was difficult for me to get through, and I just couldn't get past that. Did you like that book? You were
I
shocked.
I didn't dislike it. I don't know. I guess, yeah, I can get why it's on your least favorite compared to like the other books that you've read. I didn't dislike that book. I don't know. I feel like there is a lot of like obviously differences between our genres, but we have like books that we both absolutely love together. But I can understand why this is not one of them that we are compatible with. My last one might be a little bit of a shock, I think, because this book overall was like raved about by so many people, especially in like book talk. This book was widely popular and it like seemed to crush everybody's souls, and it did not do that for me. It's called A Thousand Boy Kisses. The summary for that is 17-year-old Rune returns from his native Norway to the sleepy town of Blossom Grove, Georgia, where he befriends Poppy as a child. He has just one thing on his mind. Why did the girl who was one half of his soul, who promised to wait faithfully to his return, cut him off without a word of explanation? Rune's heart was broken 2 years ago when Poppy fell silent. When he discovers the truth, he finds that the greatest heartache is yet to come. I did not cry one time during this book. And so many people were like, it's like devastating, gut-wrenching. I sobbed from the first to the last page. And I just like didn't feel that way. It was really, really slow. Tina just sent a text to both of us, sorry. Yeah, the book was incredibly slow. Like it pained me to read this book. It also made me super depressed, and it took me like 2 months to get through it because I just like could not get into the book. This was the book that put me in my reading slump. Like I don't think I picked my Kindle back up for a month after reading this, which took me 2.5 months to like get through. I pretty much just finished it to like get it over with, just to say like I finished this book, but it seemed like the longest, most boring book to me. It kind of like, I feel like the only thing I can sum it up to as far as like same storyline is like, this might be a little bit of a spoiler, so maybe I won't say it. Okay, I'm gonna say it. I give you a warning, spoilers. It kind of reminds me of A Walk to Remember, just very boring. I love A Walk to Remember. Like it's such a good book, or sorry, such a good movie. I've only seen the movie. But yeah, it kind of has the same storyline, kind of a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. This book was just not it for me. I could not. I 1000% would not recommend this book. But maybe it's just me, and maybe it was like in the middle of me figuring out that I don't really like this kind of genre.
That's all we have for our favorite and least favorite books. Are you currently reading something right now?
I am. I finally got around to the book called Say You Swear. It is like it's a romance book. I guess like young adult. Maybe not young adult. It's kind of like explicit. Like I don't really know.
It's smutty.
Let me look up. It's a little smutty, yeah. Let me look up the exact book genre. It's by Megan Brandy. It is a college romance. Yeah, it's basically about this girl. It's basically about this girl. She's like a twin sister. She has a twin brother. And it's like the whole she's in love with her brother's best friend kind of thing. And then comes, Noah Riley. Here comes Noah Riley. If you read this book, and just kind of like changes the game for her. And I'm in the middle of reading that, and honestly, I'm so hooked. Like, the beginning I was a little bit like confused just because there's so many names thrown around, and a lot of the names are like unisex for the girls, or they're like kind of boy names. Like her best friend's name is Cameron. So at first I was like, is she best friends with a guy or a girl? Like I was kind of confused until she started describing her, and then I was like, okay, obviously not a boy. But there's just a lot of names thrown around. So once you like get used to hearing about everybody, you like kind of reading it gets a little bit more smooth. But I recommend this book if this is like the kind of book that you are into. I'm not done yet, so I don't want to say it's a 10 out of 10, but as of right now where I am, I'm like 50% done with the book. I love this book, and I think you would like it too. I think you should read it. It kind of like gives more of an adult version of like The Summer I Turned Pretty.
Yeah, she texted me the other day and was like, I'm currently reading this book, and it's literally The Summer I Turned Pretty, but with smut.
Yeah.
I was like, slay. I am currently reading Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton, and I'm not very far into it. I'm probably like three or four chapters in. It's kind of it's taking me a while to get into it, I think, because just of the kind of book that it is. It's not like a storyline. It's like her personal experiences. So I think just because of that, it's taking me a little bit more time to actually get deeper into the book. But it's not bad so far. I'm liking it. Yeah. I hear great things about it, so I was like, I have to read it.
Yeah, it's on my it's literally right there. It's on my to be read. Is there like a book that you want to get to so badly at some point? Like, is there one that you're like, I need to read this, but I'll read it later, or not really? You've like read them all.
Off the top of my head, right now, no. I feel like I've pretty much read everything that I like wanted to, and now it's just like, oh, this looks good. Let's read this. Yeah, I don't think that I have. I really am not the kind of person to have like a list. You know what I mean? Like I have a few books selected on my Goodreads, but they're not like ones that I'm like, oh my god, I have to read this. You know? Do you have one?
Yeah, I honestly, I want to give A Court of Thorns and Roses a try, but I'm just scared because so many people hype this book up, and it's not typically like the genre that I'm into. But I've heard such great things about the series, and I want to give it a try. But the books are ginormous. There's so many pages. I'm just like, and I'm somebody that like if I started something, I want to finish it. So I'm just scared I'm going to start reading it and then going to get stuck into a reading slump again and just be stuck, because there's like 4 or 5 books I think, and they're all fairly large books. So maybe one day.
Yeah. Is there a book that you would really recommend me to read? A book or series, whatever.
Oh my goodness. I would say Say You Swear. I think you should read. I also think you should read the Mindfuck series. If you can stomach that. I think I have 3 books for you. So I'm gonna say You Swear, the Mindfuck series, and The Only One Left. I think that you would genuinely enjoy those books.
I'll get right on it.
What about me? Do you have any?
I have recommended to you before the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, because
Yes, she has.
It's genuinely one of my favorites, and I think just think it's so good, and everyone can get into that. Yeah. Have you read Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes?
No, but I forgot to text you. I watched the movie.
Did you?
Finally. I want to hear your thoughts first, though.
Oh, about the movie or the book?
The movie.
Well, for starters, I love the book. Like, I don't remember. I read the Hunger Games series, but I don't remember them very well.
Can I read that without reading the rest of the Hunger? I've only
Yeah.
read the
It's
first
a
one.
prequel.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, it like you can read it. It doesn't really matter.
I could jump right into that.
Yeah. But I love that book so much. It's probably, again, I don't remember the Hunger Games series very well, but it's like one of my favorites. It was so good. And I actually reread it before the movie came out because I just didn't remember it very well. The movie is not my favorite.
I felt that it was very short. Even not having read the books, it just felt like there was a lot missing.
There definitely was, and as a book reader going into it, I was so excited, and it didn't live up to my expectations. And there is, like, they have said that there was like a 3.5 hour movie that was like uncut, and like everyone's like begging them to release that because it would just be so much better. I think it would just add so much more to the plot line and just like everything. I think they missed out so much on specific details. If you've seen the movie for Clemencia, if I'm remembering correctly, her storyline was so important in the book, and they didn't go into any of that in the movie. So yeah, I just think that they missed out on a lot. And me and my brother's girlfriend both read it, and we're like so excited to see the movie. And when we went, we were like, it's kind of underwhelming.
Yeah, going into it as like somebody that hasn't read the book yet, I thought it was good, but as like somebody that like reads books now a lot, I'm like I just know that there's so much behind the story that's missing, because like I get that, you know, movies, they want you to like, they want to leave you on like a cliffhanger sometimes, so it's like maybe that is where we're at, but I just feel like especially the ending, like a lot could have been explained a little bit more, maybe. I don't know, that's just my point of view, but I also haven't read the book, so I could be wrong.
Yeah, I also felt that if you hadn't read the book, you would be like, what the hell is going on right now? Because none of it made sense. Even to me, and I read the book, I was like, whoa, what is happening?
I was on Reddit afterwards, like, what does this mean? Like, where, what?
Yeah, so if you haven't read that, I would recommend reading that because I've told you that also before. But you don't listen to me.
I have a Kindle, and I have Kindle Unlimited. Like, I pay for the monthly subscription, so like I tend to go for the books that are included in that first compared to like the books that I have to pay for. But I am running out of my Kindle Unlimited books, so I feel like I will get there shortly. I want to talk about another.
So sorry, Tina. We're so sorry, Tina, if you're watching this.
I just want. I would like to say, speaking about books that you loved and were disappointed in the movie, I have no faith whatsoever in this upcoming It Ends With Us movie.
Yeah. First of all,
when
the casting got announced, we were pissed off. So I just can't even. Like, they had, I feel like they just went for big names like Blake Lively rather than like.
But if you read the book, she's in her early 20s. Blake's in her 40s. Is she like 40 now?
Dude, I don't know. She has like 4 kids.
I don't know. Like, it's just not the person that I envisioned for that. And I also think, like, just because Justin was the producer or director, whatever he's doing, like, he kind of gave himself the role. Honestly, I don't mind him. It's just Blake that I'm like, why? Like, why did we do that? Like, it specifically states her age in the book.
Also, the costuming that we have seen,
So bad.
My God,
so bad. Like, why? I don't know. I literally have no faith going into that movie, but I hope that we are proved wrong and somehow it's like this masterpiece and it goes so well with the book. But I think just starting off badly with casting just kind of sets the mood for the whole movie. I feel like even if it was like small actors or nobody that's very known, like there's just so many other choices that they could have went with.
I agree.
That's our thought on that. Yeah, I don't know. Did we like name some of your favorite books? And if not, let us know your favorites. Usually, if you listen on I don't think Apple Music does it, but if you listen on Spotify, normally I do like a poll or a question that's like at the bottom if you like, keep scrolling of the episode. So I'll definitely put that in if you want to type your favorite book or a book that we should read based on the genres that we like.
Yeah, if you guys have recommendations, DM us,
We're
comment
always
on the YouTube video.
always open for suggestions. I have so many books that I want to read, but I just like pick and choose depending on like the mood I'm in or where I'm at in life, blah blah blah. Like it kind of depends, but if you have like a different genre that we didn't even name and you think that we would somehow like it, then please let us know. I'm honestly open to anything.
Yeah, so that wraps up this week's episode. We hope you guys enjoyed.
We gotta go get our head in the game and go to Disney Channel night. So yeah, if you want to follow us on any of our social media, everything will be linked down below. If you want to follow us on our podcast social media, it is Keeping It Chaotic Pod on everything. And yeah,
We'll see you guys next week.
bye.